Well, hello everybody. Welcome to part 2 of the GE T2259D Transistor radio. As you can see, it's not on my radio chassis holder. Where might it be? Well, what I've done since part 1, I took the two boards outside and I sprayed them down and scrubbed them off using electric cleaner. Got kind of a white film left on it, but they're as clean as I could get them. The other thing I've done is I started replacing the capacitors. On this particular board, I changed this one, which was a 10 microfarad at 25 volts, I believe. And this one, which was a 4.7 microfarad at 50 volts. Change those two. So on this board I've still got one to go, little one in here. Let's see if you can see it right there, right in front of my finger. I got that one, and that will be all of the caps that I'm changing, the electrolytics, and this board changed. So then that'll leave on this board this one, right in front of my finger. This one, this one, this one, this one, oh, and this one, of course, the big one. So that's what we're going to do to start this video, is change some caps. Now, I'm not going to sit and make you watch me do all this microfine work, because as you can see when I set that down on the bench, I have to use my magnifier to see what I'm doing. I might be able to zoom you up and show you a little bit of it, and I think I'll try and do that. Let me see if I can zoom you up closer. Okay, so I've got you up closer. I don't know how well the focus is going to stay, but so the first thing I got to do on something this small is I got to determine which points on this board are the points that I have to heat to get that cap out of there. So I'm going to do that first. I got to find them, and I can tell you right now, just looking through the camera, I can't find this. I'm going to have to put my other magnifying goggles on and take a closer look. So I think what I'll do is get that figured out and come right back. Okay, so we're back. And as promised, there's all those caps that I changed out. So let's take a look. It won't take up as much real estate as they did before. Get you in the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 new caps in there. And then this big one. The problem is, it is a 47 microfarad, 160 volts. And unfortunately, I only have 33s. Biggest I go is 33s. So I guess I'm going to have to contact Sal's Capacitors and get some caps coming before I can change this one. So that's on that board. And then on this board, I think I showed you before. I think I had it finished. There's one new one down there, there, and over here. So that's the caps on that board. So I got to order a cap for that one before I can finish the cap. Off to the side, and now I'm going to start to work on this piece. This is the piece with the broken stud that holds the pulleys, like these pulleys. Got the one there, and here, and 2 over here, and there should be one right here. So I'm going to look at this. So I think I was looking at this a little bit closer. This is the switch actuator, and it looks like it has a little slot in there, and it looks like you turn it and it just comes right out like that. So that's out. And I want to take this out. I can actually take this apart. It's got an E-clip on it. I'm just going to take the whole works out. It is very stiff. That's part of the stiffness, I think. I mean, it's not as stiff as what I thought that it was, because I think a lot of it was just a string being as tight as it was. So I'm going to go ahead and take this loose. Might make me a new piece of cardboard for this thing out of fish paper. That little piece of cardboard's kind of nasty. I mean, it's not like I have to, but might have to take that E-clip off before this nut will come off. We'll find out here in a second. Yeah, I think that E-clip's going to have to come off. Stuck to my screwdriver. And there's the cardboard, and there is the nut. Put those in my baggie. Alright, now let's take a look at this. Okay, that should clean up pretty good. At least it's brass and doesn't feel like it's... I think it'll clean up pretty good. Set that aside. I'll look at this a little closer now. So, I'm going to get the piece out. I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to get the piece out and try to fit it on there. Let me do that. Okay, so I cleaned this up. I know it don't look like it. It didn't clean up great, but it cleaned up some. This cleaned up fairly decent. I don't know what this is. I think this is like a one-piece light assembly. I took it, I don't know what the current should be. I always thought I have a schematic for this. I'll have to figure it out after I actually get it plugged in. But it may not work. I hooked it up to my DC output and put it up to 12 volts. I started at 1.2 and ran it up to 12 and didn't do anything. But it very well may be running on household current since this thing plugs in. So might have to wait till I get it wired up so I can see what I got. It's burned out, obviously. That's probably unobtainium. So what I probably would do is mount a couple of LEDs in here somehow to light that up. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. Right now I'm worried about where this peg broke off. So let's see if I can get you guys zoomed in a little bit so I can show you what I'm doing. So there's the location where the peg broke off. What I did was I cleaned it with alcohol, and then I took my pick, if I can get the pick in the picture, here we go, and I scrubbed it to make it rough. Then I took the actual peg and cleaned it with alcohol. Both of these have been cleaned with alcohol, and I rubbed it on my file. So the idea is I got to glue it on here. Once I get it glued on there, I'm going to attempt to drill a very fine hole down through the center of the peg. Get you in camera. Down through the center of that peg and into this, so that I have one continuous piece to strengthen that. So the problem is the peg has a head, so the rollers have to be on there. Now I guess I could take the head off, file it so that I could put the rollers in after the fact, and maybe put a little washer up there to keep them on. I don't know. Let me think about that. We'll figure this out. I'm afraid if I put the rollers on first and then glue it, they're liable to get down into the glue. And I don't want that. So let me figure this out and I'll come back. Okay, folks, so I am partway there. This is the post. And alignment's not too bad. It's not dead perfect, but it's not bad. So it's glued on there. Now, how well it's glued on there, I cannot say. I don't trust it. I don't think it'll last very long. So the only way it's going to last any longer is if I can get some support, structural support inside. One idea I've got here is to possibly heat this needle up and see if I can stab it down through here. I don't have any bits small enough. It'd take a really minuscule bit, and I don't have anything as small as this needle, which this needle looks really big, but it's really not that big. So I'm thinking I might try that. I'm going to try and heat this up and see if I can stab it down inside there. So plan A, drilling through, didn't work. Plan B, heating the needle up, cherry red, didn't work because by the time I started to force it down in there, it only made it about 1/8 of an inch and it had cooled off enough I couldn't do anything. So now I'm on plan C. So let me show you plan C. Plan C is this little device that I made. It's out of a pretty thick chunk of little metal. And I've kept the top where the rollers ride smooth. And I've roughed up the bottom and the sides. And what I'm thinking is if I get some shoulder support on that peg, it might be alright. So I've made this so that it fits there just like that. And it's thick enough that I think it'll give it support. So what my plan is, I still have to try the wheels on there and make sure that there's enough room for them. But the plan is that I will epoxy the metal shoulder to the plastic, to the shaft, as well as to the plastic right here. Keep the epoxy below the level where the rollers are, and I'm thinking that hopefully that will give enough support to the shaft to hold it. That's my thoughts anyway. Sounds good in theory. Application, maybe not so much. Might as well figure it out. Let me see what we got. See what I can get done. Bring you back. Okay. Here's what we got. I let this set. This is set for 24 hours now. So as I was showing you the other night, I got this metal spacer on there and it's epoxied. Both sides as well as the front. I don't think it's going anywhere. I put epoxy down before I pushed it down too. So there's epoxy between it and the shaft as well as it and the base. So I think it's on there pretty solid. I think it's going to be good. Now, we're still not home free because that works nice, because I have to retain these somehow. Now, what I did was I filed that collar considerably, and then I also filed these pulleys slightly. So the center is sticking up slightly, but very slightly. So I've got to come up with a way to retain these that doesn't cause a binding. Like, I can't necessarily really glue anything on here because it's liable to get down in the wheels and seize them up. So I got to look around my shop and see what I've got that I can modify. I'm thinking about like a thumbtack or something. I don't know. I'll have to think about this one. Let me get something going and I'll be back. Alright folks, I think I've got this figured out. Let me show you what I'm thinking here. So here's the short up pin. I needed something to retain the bushings. So here's what I did. Here's what I found. Let me show you what I got. Let me set this down. So this is a snap. Anybody that's ever, you got snaps in your clothing and stuff like that, this is half of a snap that I had. And I started looking at the hollow section there, and lo and behold, it was close, very, very close to being the right size to slide right over the top of that. I can get that where you can see that. Okay. So I took one apart. I grinded all the outside edges off of it, and I was left with this. That's that center section out of that. And then I grinded it down. Then this had a little bit of an indent all the way around, squished. So I spread that apart slightly. So now it slides on here. I have to work it, but it slides on here very tightly, which is what I want because it's got to retain. That said, the diameter of the roller that's got to sit on this one had to be bigger. So I open that up. So now this one will spin on that. And that's nice and free. So now all I have to do is I'm going to shorten this up with a file just slightly because it's sticking through this, as you can see, just a fraction of an inch, and I don't want the other roller to bind on it. So I'm going to shorten that up slightly. Then I can put the other roller on here and then push this down over the top, and it should retain it all. That's my plan. I'm sticking to it. I'll come back when I have it together and we'll see how that worked out. Alright folks, I'm happy to report that it worked. Worked quite well actually. I had to knock it down with a hammer and a punch. It was tight enough, and it didn't break anything off in the process, and everything's nice and free. So it looks like from the top. Not the most handsomest thing in the world, but hey, as long as it's functional, that's all I care about. So they're both free, rotate really nice. Our shaft's on there, secure with the collar, and we're retained here. So I think we're in pretty good shape. And like I said, I actually hammered that pretty good to get that on there. I was expecting to break something off in here, but I didn't. So it's good. Pretty happy with that. So that piece is fixed. Now, if I had a 47 microfarad 160 volt capacitor for that one last capacitor that I got to change out, I'd be in pretty good shape. But I don't. I got to get that on order and get that going. So here we are back with this assembly. Like I said, I got all of the capacitors changed on that board and all the capacitors changed on this board with the exception of this one. And I've still got to get that. So what we can do is get these pots, this pot and this switch, shot up with some deoxit and See if we can get those so they aren't all scratchy and nasty like they were before. So let me get some deoxit and see what we can do. Okay, so I got my can of deoxit. I was looking at that switch pot and I didn't see any holes, and I was like, oh no, I don't have no good holes to get into this thing. I thought I was going to have to drill a hole. But, I don't know if you can see in the light, but right down in there, I'll point it out here, you can see it, right down there, there's a little hole. So that's what I'm going to shoot that one into. So let's see if we can get some in there. Try and get it all the angles so that it gets all through that switch. And on the pot wiper. So we can get some in this switch. How that's going to be. Alright, let's see what else we can do. Okay, so we're going to move our attention to this front grill, and I want to get this speaker out before I poke a finger through it. And I think it just is this one screw here and this little clamp. And then this should lift up and pull out from underneath those tabs right there, like that. Ew. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Look at that. What a mess. Set that down for a second. This is sticking. And it cracked. Not a great loss, but there we go. I'll glue that back together again. I'll set this over here in this case. You guys can see that from all angles, but it's like bug dew and stuff, I guess, in there. I will try and do better. Work with the small stuff. It's kind of hard to do that. Alright, now I'm going to put this in a drawer and hope that nothing gets poked into that. Okay, so really wanted to do was get this glass out of here. And I'm hoping I can get it out without breaking the rest of this. I could care less if I break this. If I can get it out, I might be able to polish it up or replace it. I'll probably replace it. But I'm going to try and get it out of there first. Alright, so unfortunately, the verdict is I'm going to have to live with it because it is in there solid. I am going to wind up breaking the housing before I can get it out of there. So, darn. The reason I say that is that, you know, it's not bad on the inside. I can clean that up. The problem is on the outside here, somebody sanded this. They didn't do the rest of it, but they sanded this like they were trying to block out an area or something. I don't know what they were trying to do, but they sanded it. Now I'm thinking I could probably take some, you know, 1000 grit, 1500 grit sandpaper maybe and clean it up some, but I'm afraid I'll, you know, scratch all the rest of this if I do that. I was thinking about one of those headlight cleaning type things or something, but I don't know. That bugs me. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, if you haven't found by now. Stuff like that bothers me, because I know I can make the rest of this look good, but I don't know that I can do anything with that. So I'm just going to clean this up as best I can, and we'll have to live with it. Because see, I'm planning on redoing all of this edging and stuff that's on here, and then I'm going to have this thing like a sore thumb when I get done with it. So I don't know. For now, I'm leaving it.